with Invizimals, your dreams will become true. You can see Nike selling sports shoes, and they in their logo is just do it. What does it mean? When your demography is just people who should, if you tell the people who don't practice sports as much, and you tell them you can do it, then they will. This is the iconic image that you need to exploit. In Star Wars, the iconic image, the icon of the saga, is use.
Vale, cuando nos dicen usa la fuerza, ¿qué nos están diciendo?
Use the force. And this means you can overcome what is impossible. This is the message. And Star Wars was for teenagers. It was designed for teenagers. And this is just a message like you can talk with the girl you like at school. And these are the kinds of things. You use the force, and you will see that in the film you will never hear use the force, but this is just the icon of the whole saga. And so you need to try to find the empathy with your public, and you need to find things with whom people can feel represented. And this empathy needs to be searched through simplicity, because in the end we're all overwhelmed with stimulus, and once you've finished explaining something which is complex, people just disconnect and don't listen to that anymore. So you need to find simple things. Any important and powerful ideas should be explained in 6 or less words. This is the idea that you've probably heard about, the elevator pitch. If you are with somebody in the lift, you should explain the stories that Ernest Hemingway was making a kind of game with drunk people, with drunk friends, and they want to have the highest impact with the least effort. And that's why they wanted to use only 6 words. And this is the whole story about it. You will find a lot of information in the internet. And with Invizimals, the story is we are surrounded by invisible creatures. And that's the icon, that's the motto. If I explain a long story, people will just not listen to that anymore. Hemingway wanted to use something robust, and he wrote a very short and powerful story, which is this: baby shoes for sale, never worn. What does this mean? This means that there was a person waiting for a child, and the child was never born, and these shoes are for sale. So that's the idea. The idea is going hard on your target and find something to explain it in a simple way, in a short word. And Nike, that's again the example, just do it. So be careful with these great ideas that need a long explanation. Be careful with them. Then there is another component, which is density. You're asking for people to engage in something, and this needs to be big, because you need to offer density. You want people to be there for a long time. So if you're offering toys, t-shirts, anything, this whole density is what people are going to enjoy, but not from the outside, only once they are inside. Once they are in the story, they will start enjoying everything. And there were people saying the biographies was the part that people like, that some people like most in Invizimals, because you are really impressed. Was it useful? No, but it provided density, and this density is the same as if you take Star Wars as an example, and you can take a geek knowing what kind of oil was using for the aircraft, etc. So the whole idea is that it will create a real universe thanks to this density. Everything is already designed. So this is just the case with Invizimals. You have all the answers for any question you may have. Everything is there, so you can provide a density, and people would feel this is a whole real universe, and people will enjoy it for a long time. The third idea I would like to talk about is the memorability. I am not talking about let's do something cool. I'm talking about doing something that people will remember. Let's make our brand have something that people will remember. There is a nice anecdote about Frozen. Frozen for me is fascinating. I have a child always singing the songs of Frozen.
Okay.
They said that the movie had completely changed the day they found the song. And I'm not someone who makes movies, and this sounds silly to me, but as a transmedia person, this makes a lot of sense. They had this Let It Go song, you know, let it go, and isn't that addictive? And I'm sure that tomorrow morning you will be singing this wonderful song, because I just sung it to you. I dare you to go to YouTube and listen to this song, and that day you will be singing let it go, let it go, let it go, that day and the day after and the day after. That's memorabilia. And what we did is to tell a kid to look at the little Invisimal. Well, those kids will be remembering that 30 years later. There is a star theory. You know what that star theory means, right? Star means something they always remember. Something that they will always remember. So when you work on something and you want it to be transmedia, think about it. What's the addictive part of it? What will really get their attention? Will they remember it? And if they don't remember, something is not well. And being able to engrave it in memories is important. You have the memorable fact, and then there is like a downride. This is the Shambhala in Portaventura. It's a roller coaster. Roller coasters are one of the best things designed to be memorable. Why is it memorable? Because there is a cue. From the cue you can see the roller coaster, therefore your brain is already secreting dopamine, and it's saying this is going to be awesome. That's the idea. It's creating expectations. And then you have the actual fact, which is the roller coaster. Undoubtedly it needs to be spectacular. In the case of Shambhala, it succeeds in it because it is amazing. And then you have the downride. It means that you have been through the memorable fact, because this is like a bit of a hero trip. So we need to make you remember it. What is there outside of every single roller coaster? A picture shop, so that you can remember that you enjoyed the moment so much. So we work on memorability in that manner. In Invizimals, when we launched the first Invizimal, well, everyone was thinking that this was a bit scary. So what are we doing? We're creating expectations. We apply the same logic. Then you have the upturn, and then you have the reminder. Think of that. There's an uprise, the movement, and then a downturn. And then there's something that's really important. You need to play with the feeling of belonging. People want to belong. We are in a world in which everybody wants to be unique, which is quite funny. But we all want to be part of something too. You might be a supportive fan or a Garza fan like me, woo. But we all need to be part of something. But what you have to do is to make your game or your product take this into account. They call it play to belong. This is something that needs to be introduced. The idea is for you to sell an alternative reality that will be larger than life, and that will enable players to feel like they belong to something amazing. This is a picture that's quite illustrative. This is Shackleton's excursion to the Antarctica. He was sent to the Antarctica to explore, and actually he wrecked the ship because the austral winter came around, and they had a shipwreck, and they spent over 500 days in the Antarctica, and they were completely astray, and they survived. But I want you to take a look at the announcement posted by Shackleton on the Times newspaper to guide people from the expedition. Men wanted for hardest journey. Small wages, cold, long rides, honor and acknowledgement in case of recognition. So you read this and you say, okay, I'm out. Would you go to that trip? They're offering you to be part of this. So the more amazing this is, the larger than life it is, the better. In order to shift gears, I'm going to give you homework. This afternoon you need to download a Kim Kardashian game. It's very popular for mobile devices. I'm not joking, I'm serious. You need to download the Kim Kardashian mobile game. And the topic of the game is that you are the Kim's best friend. You're joking. You want to be Kim's best friend. You want to go with her to parties, to events, you choose the clothes you're going to wear. The idea is that in both cases, they're offering you a feeling of belonging. You are going to be part of something that's actually serious, and that will actually motivate you and stimulate you. And it's always offering you a feeling of belonging. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. But it's almost even more important to offer transcendence. And by this I mean that Invizimals is a baby, an 8-year-old baby. And my reference here is not Invizimals, it's Stan Lee. Stan Lee is possibly 80 by now. He drew Spider-Man in the 50s and the 60s, and he's still present. So we want to find transcendence. Don't think about what will happen next year. No, Invizimals is going to be long-standing. I want to make a retirement working on Invizimals, and my plans abide by this fact. This is very important because you're trying to find transcendence for this, and the consumers also perceive this, and they think, I'm going to jump on this train because it's going to last for many years. And if they have to choose between Monster High and Invizimals, if they think that Invizimals has more work put into it because it's going to be more long-lasting, they will relate to it. So you always have to bear in mind transcendence. And allow me to finish my talk by stating the following. This was the end of my transition. An IP, in order for it to be a transmedia, you know, transmedia IPs are always horizontal. They have a very large scope. I'm very good at coming up with very nice tales, but I don't know how to put together animation series. I'm not very good at working on video games. I don't know how TV channels work. I don't know what Panini knows about publishing houses and printing houses. I don't know about that. So at the end of the day, the idea is for make whatever you're making to be viral. You need to be able to make it contagious. First, you need to be able to make it viral among a team of partners, and you will gain believers. And bit by bit, consumers will awaken, and they will say, okay, I believe in this too. You need to be able to make it go viral. You need to be able to spread the news, to be good at spreading the news. And in order to do so, I need to present to you the people that made this possible together with us. This was, of course, our idea, but we wouldn't have made it if it weren't for the people who are supporting us. Sony Entertainment, they said, okay, this is a crazy idea, but it's cool, let's go for it. And then also we embarked to the guys from Panini. They are very good at collector cards, and we all know them ever since we were little, and they thought this is quite good. And we wouldn't have made it if Televisión Española and Televisión 3 in Catalonia wouldn't have come on board with broadcasting, and also the guys from Skin 21 and RGB also joined us. And in production terms, they are world class, and possibly they were the last to get to the party, but now they're selling millions and millions of toys through IMS Toys. So if you do all the previous, but you're not good at going social and going viral, then you will be going nowhere. And now I would like to give the floor to the rest of the panelists so that they can further explain how they came on board and what they did. Thank you.
Bueno, como podéis ver, Dani Sánchez Crespo no solo es un gran creador.
As you can see, Dani Sánchez Crespo is not just a great creator, but also a great communicator. And he really loves his own creations, which is quite important. And he's managed to convey a lot of enthusiasm and passion to all the people who are pushing forward this IP. And now we're going to have a brief round of presentations done by each one of us. We are going to try to reply to 3 questions in our own manner. And these 3 questions are key to understand why we are all on this boat. One of the key questions is, how do we all, from our different platforms, assume the challenge of expanding an IP, such as Invizimals, in which augmented reality is an intrinsic part of the concept? Being clear that our DNA is different. what is the differentiation of the different sectors? That's the second question. And thirdly, we will talk about the outcomes and the expectations moving forward about the IP and the experience of augmented reality. In the case of RGB, there's something that's key for us, which is belonging. Could you please show my first slide? We started working together with Danny and his whole team on this. There is a very good chemistry, and I think that this will last for many years. And we came to a very good understanding ever since we created D'Artagnan, Willy Fogg, David El Nomo, David Gnome, and all the series that we've put together throughout the years. We've been able to detect that belonging is key. What's the target then? Kids from 6 to 12 years of age. We need children to identify with our characters. Our key roles are children, therefore. We have our roles such as hero, which is part of Invizimals in the video games and the different platforms. Hero is the anti-hero. He is a random hero. He became a hero by chance. He has been selected without wanting to be. So this gives rise to very funny situations. Lima, for instance, is very acquainted with all the different points in Invizimals. Why is she not the hero? So we have a gender war, so to speak. This gives rise to a comedy, so to speak. And then we have Sam. He is the gadget guy. He is the one that finally unveils the situation, and they make a fun team. They are sad one altogether. They're the ones that are really going to capture Invizimals. But how do they capture Invizimals? Invizimals are amazing creatures. They're very attractive for any child, and they're in danger. And here the child adopts the role of being like National Geographic. He is the one that needs to get everything solved, and if you watch this series, sometimes these children become Invizimals. And as Danny said, this is putting the child in a very emotional ride, in a very exciting ride. And we have complicated situations that they will have to face. We have Kenny and Jasmine, characters who are already acquainted with the origin of the Invisimal saga. They are the scientists behind this, and they're the ones that actually monitor the adventures of these kids in the invisible world. But they need to intertwine this with their daily life. They have homework, they have issues with their class colleagues, and they disappear all of a sudden because they're double agents. And this is very fun for children. You know, all of a sudden they can see how their lives could become amazing. And then we have the world of Invizimals. These are like dark rovers. It's a latent challenge, a threat. And then they have to determine why they're there, why, how to relate with them, and what the gist of the story is. And on the basis of all these things, what we do is to clone a world on the series which is similar to that of the video game. And you know what? It's a real world too. It's Japan, Mexico, Spain. We're going to visit all the different real scenarios of this world. We put a lot of effort into recreating real landscapes that could be identified by anyone in the world. So we have created the invisible worlds. Well, Danny created it, and we have recreated it in the series. And there we portray the different cultures on Earth, and we propose two interesting dimensions that are very well intertwined, and they're very clear rules. So now let's see how augmented reality works on all this. It works in a very simple manner. When we're watching the series, we could see that there's a marker in the series, and it also appears in at the end of the series, and also in any catch-ups that you may see in the television channels, for instance in Clan. So when you see that, you can use your second screen, which is a tablet, smartphone, a PSP. You can use your second screen when you watch this content, and you will see an application that will make you see something different. You can see an invisible evolving in your room. It's leaping around your screen, and you can capture it. You can make it yours. That invisible now belongs to you, so you're a true invisible hunter. Augmented reality opens the door to becoming part of this adventure. You're no longer a passive spectator, but an active audience. And in animation series, we consider this to be a very interesting gate so that we can still broaden and move forward with many different concepts. And you know, many things are boiling right now, and I am throwing an idea to creators, to the creators in the room. Here there is a point so you can create very interesting ideas. Use transmedia. That's the gate towards growth. Now I give the floor to Juan Jimenez. He's going to explain to us his experience as well as I did. And I would just like to say that whenever we finish with the round of interventions, we will have a discussion, a Q&A round. We will have mobile microphones in the room so that we can further clarify any points that we didn't make clear in our presentation. Juan. Thank you very much, Tony. I'm going to stand up so that I can show you some reference images as far as the video game is concerned. I'd like to say that for Sony, the Invizimals product, the universe created by Danny, as he explained, this has been a true present. We take a lot of pride in being here talking about IPs such as Frozen, Spider-Man, and many other great IPs that also come from, that have been very popular in the US and other countries outside of Spain. Here we're talking about intellectual property that has been created in Spain and that has been pushed forward by Spanish subsidiaries that perhaps are part of multinational groups. But this has been a remarkable success, and indeed it's something that we have achieved by putting a lot of work into it. Many companies have been explaining the different factors, and we will continue to do so, the keys for success for Invizimals. But for Sony, perhaps the key for the success of this product is undoubtedly innovation, technological innovation indeed. Earlier on, Tony talked about second screens, smartphones, and so on. As of today, all of us are quite very well used to working with the latest generation technologies. But in that year, in 2009, which was the year when we launched the first Invizimals video game, the key represented by this innovation is this device that I have in my hand right now. It's a video camera. It's 1.3 megapixel resolution. Back then, we didn't have cameras on our smartphones. People didn't use their smartphones to take selfies of themselves or record videos. Smartphones didn't have cameras, or the cameras were very basic. So this camera, this handheld camera, was the first chance to introduce a camera to a portable video game console. Children entered the world of mobile phones earlier and earlier, increasingly, but back then, a 6-year-old considered their PSP, their mobile console, that represented their key technological tool. We were capable of turning PSP into the weapon for all children to be able to hunt Invizimals. Danny was mentioning claims of big brands such as Apple or Nike. The Invizimals claim was very simple, which was join the hunt. What we tried to portray with this was a feeling of reality, so that children could use their imagination, so that they could believe that we're actually surrounded by amazing creatures that they could only see thanks to their PSP. This small device represented a very important innovation, and this helped us achieve success since the very beginning. In the year 2009, there was the video game sector was being hit by piracy, especially this was happening to mobile consoles, and this hardware helped us fight against piracy, because indeed this camera could not be hacked, and all children actually required this small gadget in order to enjoy the experience with their Invizimals. We launched 3 PSP video games. Sorry, I couldn't show the presentation. I didn't manage to. Thank you, and I apologize for this little aside. Well, we created 3 PSP video games in 2009. We sold them in 1 million copies in Spain. And when we talk about Spain, we must be clear about the fact that we are a world power in terms of video game consumption, but not so much in terms of production and development of video games. And this is quite important. Invizimals has been a commercial success in Spain, but it's also been a commercial success in other countries of the world, in Latin America and Southern Europe especially. So this is another reason to take pride. Also, thanks to technological evolution, we managed to launch 2 other video games. One has been recently launched, is Invizimals The Resistance, and then we also launched more powerful hardware, such as PlayStation Vita. In terms of communications, well, later on, Iago will tell us about what can be offered by a window, a broadcasting window such as TV, so that we can explain the complexities of the worlds that has been created by Daniel and his team. But in the beginning, we had to use advertising, social networks, internet, in order to be able to convey to children those mini stories through advertising spots and promotional tales, which in a very short amount of time try to portray the Invizimals experience, what it meant to be an Invizimal hunter. I would like to show an example of the type of promotional videos that we have created to promote this video game.
No sé si podemos poner audio.
Could we also have an audio sound, please? Could we enable the sound for the video?
Bueno, os imagináis un poco el audio.
Well, you need to imagine the sound that's going with this video, but what we're playing with is fiction and reality. That makes what we try to do is to convey the feeling of protagonism for children within the story, so that they can feel as true Invizimal hunters, so that we can fulfill our promise. Well, and that was practically all for me. Thank you very much. We apologize, but we are not receiving any sound.
Sonido en sala, sí. Me oye demasiado incluso. Muy bien, pues muy bien, Juan. Muy...
Thank you very much, Juan, for your explanation. The next speaker is going to be Iago Fandiño. He is the director of children's content in Radio Televisión Española, the Spanish national TV channel. I don't have a presentation. I don't want to deliver my presentation sitting on a chair, so I'm going to be standing. You know what? I think we barely talked about technology here. We make a common mistake when we talk about transmedia or cross-media, which is to think that this is technology. You know what? Technology is a tool, and it'll enable us to reach a very large audience in different manners. But the key for success for this story is that this gentleman had a wonderful story, and he believed in it, and he worked on it enormously, and actually they even had the ability to identify a new way to tell about that story, and not just having a new way to tell the story, but rather that new way to tell this tale did actually engage many people. It was useful to sell consoles, which is what PlayStation needed. They needed to reach not a visual target. Also, it was useful for partners important as Panini, so that they could offer new contents for something so traditional, because let us not forget that it's a little paper card. A collector card is a bit of a collector card, but they wanted to introduce a new perception. IMC could therefore develop wonderful toys, and it enabled us to develop a strategy that has been ongoing for over 2 years, a bit more than 2 years. What is the strategy about? Well, every 2 years we launch a request for proposals for the animation sector, so that they can participate in animation co-productions. Since a couple of years ago, one of the constraints or one of the requirements that we place for this type of projects is for them to be interactive. Call it transmedia, call it whatever you will. What are we looking for? Well, we want this to be strategic. We consider that this is strategic, and not for us only as a public broadcasters, but actually for the sector of Spanish animation. We need to be part of new developments. We need to do this hand in hand with the potentials of transmedia. Why? Because this is the way to come up with products such as Invizimals. They have a light of their own. Actually, just the other day, I was at a meeting with public European broadcasters. You take a project like Invizimals, and you don't even need to use any words to describe it. You just show a game. I was going to bring videos and promotions, but you can already see what it is with your own eyes. I don't need you to tell you about it. These projects are very important, and this is why we always ask for this interactive leg, this component. What type of interactive side? Well, whatever the project requires. When developing projects, I make a suggestion to you. Be truthful with the history's core, with the characters, with the universe that you need to create, with the density. You need to be coherent. For me, coherence is something that I wear on the front of my head. And if you hear me talk today and a month down the road, you will hear me talk about coherence. You always need to respect the product. If tomorrow all of a sudden augmented reality becomes fashionable, you don't need to build augmented reality if it doesn't make sense for the story. Well, last year we received the Invizimals project through BRB. This was a project that we knew about. We knew about the potential. It was a project that you could indeed support because it does have a spirit, and well, it was clear to understand. I am sure that one of the key problems when assessing projects, you were talking about the elevator pitch, right? Well, the problem with being at the other side of the elevator pitch is that you have someone telling you a project and you're really wishing to understand the project, and sometimes you can't. You have a glimpse of what it means, you have some perceptions, and you think, I think it's interesting. What you're talking about is interesting, but I have the feeling that you are not very clear about your project, and I cannot trust my intuition. The other person needs to convince me. In this case, the project was crystal clear. It was very well structured. We understood that the legs were adequate. The production company has been long-standing in the market, and if you didn't know about it, just Google it. You may remember David Del Nomo, and all the different new developments that they're making. This is a guarantee that reassures you when you want to enter production. And we also have the passion of anagrama, which is not the one that created the video game, but rather the whole universe. The video game is fantastic, but for me the wonderful part is that the universe is so dense and that it offers so much potential for the future. We also have Sony PlayStation, and this deserves a lot of credit. I am part of a public TV right now, and I also worked at a multinational company. You know, standing up for Spanish project before multinational is something worth of a hero. Hagelton, by the way, hasn't been proved, but it's a wonderful story. Being able to stand up for a Spanish project before a multinational, saying that you're going to work with augmented reality, and actually saying that there will be a need for a camera. I cannot even imagine how the conversations with the Japanese people went, but I'm sure it was worth recording. And this is amazing, especially when you have Panini's support. And Panini's support was not just like, okay, give me your drawings and put together some collector cards and that's it and that's all. No, they actually did understand the underlying concept, and IMC is doing precisely the same. When you have all things, it's very easy to get involved and to put your stakes on it, and then it's easy to understand how to convey it to the screen. And here, augmented reality enables us to actually break those barriers. There's something that I really enjoy about the augmented reality application for Invizimals, and this is a bit of an anecdote actually. Have you realized how when you focus on the code, the Invisimal appears? Did you actually focus on what needs to happen? You need to break the screen. You need to break the screen, and you need to bring the reality in front of you. At the end of the day, this is what TV has been doing since its very beginning. It intends to go beyond that little frame that you have in front of you. It intends to reach your heart. And this is something that Invizimals manages to do. Those of us who have been working in the interactive world for quite a long time, we know that there's a hype of the moment. Everybody wants to ride that wave. Everybody wants to be part of cross-media, transmedia, however you may want to call it. But not so many of them ground this well. With augmented reality, this has been true more so than with any of those hypes before, because this couldn't just be an anecdote. Normally, augmented reality would just be an anecdote, something that you would see in your cereal box, but here, it's actually a part of a story. I just wanted to tell you that on Friday, we are going to be broadcasting this series in prime time at 8 in the afternoon. This is the best prime time for a clan, so I really encourage you to watch it, to download the application, to try it with your children. And if you have children around them, don't say anything to them, just make them watch it and see what their reaction is, and then tell us about it. Thank you very much.
Muy bien, Yago. Me quedo con el...
Thank you very much, Iago. I will keep this headline. There are many facets to Invizimals, but there needs to be coherence. Now we give the floor to Joan Hortal, who is the marketing director for Panini Spain. He's going to provide his standpoint for this.
Dani nos decía que
Danny was explaining before that we were going to explain our experiencing with Invizimals, and the truth, in the case of Panini, it was just out of an anecdote, a family anecdote. With the Sony marketing people, we have good friendship for several reasons, and on the Three Wise Men night, one of my children, I have three, the second of them, received the first Invizimals video game in 2009. 3 days after, when he was only devoted to playing with that video game, I went there and asked him, "What is this?" And he said, "These are the Invizimals, they are monsters." "And do they evolve?" "Yes, they do. And they have several ways to attack." And I was really amazed. From the very beginning, the brand was really amazing because of the concept summarizing the whole thing. Invizimals, invisible animals. This is such a seducing and attractive concept for them, and the whole universe behind the augmented reality was really also attractive for me. And in many cases, Panini has received projects of new applied technologies, but we always said the same. We're open to that, but we want to have the idea, the concept, not the technology so much, but the applicable idea. In summary, I realized that probably Panini had also received a great present, and on the next day I phoned Jorge and Juan and I told them, "Look, we need to meet to talk about Invizimals." And they said, "Yes, this was exactly our idea. We wanted to meet you to talk about this because we think there are a lot of synergies that may be common among us." And on the next day we were meeting in Barcelona with Dani, Jorge and Juan, and with one of our external research people to talk about Invizimals, to talk about synergies, and to talk about the future, and to talk about strategy, to see how Panini could sell a lot, which was the idea, but to see how Panini could help, because Danny was talking about the importance of the concept and the belonging of a group, the sense of belonging in a group. And for us, the stickers are so great. When a collection is successful, the children have this sense of belonging, and there are many boys and girls who have their great collection in their life just because other friends at school are doing that, only because they want to belong to that group who is doing this collection. And this is important for Sony and obviously for Invizimals. And that's precisely what we identified in the very beginning. We created a strategy with a first collection of stickers, and we are going to see the first spot of the first collection. We have now already 4 of them, and I will explain you how we organized everything in time, because Panini also wants to retire with Invizimals, with the whole Invizimal portfolio. We need to be very careful with the property, progressing together, evolving together, and this is what happened. I am going to show you the first spot of the first collection. The audio seems not to work, but here you can see the stickers. As if you take a closer look, there is a small QR code which used in the video game, the second video game in 2010, because we started in January 2010, that was our strategy. Only if you had the PSP only if you had the video game, the Invizimals video game, you could see that your stickers became a reality, turned into reality. So apart from the whole Invizimals universe, this was just magic. You could see the sticker. I'm going to show it to you again because it's only a 20-second video. But here we explained that you had to have the second video game. And this was the whole concept behind, and from that give me just 1 second. Apart from that, this was the idea for the launch, for the several launches. We had January, and we will have in January the 5th collection of Invizimals. This gives us the idea of the good health of Invizimals, of course also for us and for our business. And finally, I would like to explain that we created a grade and we went beyond. Apart from the 2 first collections, we had cards. The card game, which was a concept of a game with some cards you can collect, and through smartphones and tablets, and through a specific app developed by Novarama with Sony, you could face two cards, and these both Invizimals were fighting. And you will see what I mean with this spot and the whole concept behind this card game.
En definitiva,
so as you see, this created a whole bigger penetration because it was a free app. You could have the Invizimals at home enjoying a Panini product, and this provided us, this made us be even more notorious for the IP. Thank you so much.
Muy bien, Joan. Pues
Thank you, John. This was also very interesting. So the fascination of a child created this whole meetings and business, etc., and the whole target. Now we're going to talk to hear Martin Cuyas, who is the brand manager in IMC Toys.
Okay. Buenos días a todos.
Hello, good morning. As Dave said, we were the last to embark in this project, not because we didn't want, but because there were other companies in the previous years. Until 2011, the last of the video games that was launched was associated with another company, and then we were presented this whole project. The new platform launches, PS Vita, and the whole trading cards. And we, as a company, we were received, we were welcoming in their company, and it was a great opportunity for us. So altogether, we decided to create toys that we wished them to convey and to join everything in this augmented reality that we were seeing in Invizimals, and the possibility for the children to be the main character of the whole series through these toys. We created a rent, and our toys became alive. Here the toy world is very stationary, so you need to have a very well organized calendar. First we had some collector pieces, which were 24 items in total. They also worked together with some cards, and through the app then you will see this clearly in the video that I'm going to show you. But this item became alive, and the children just saw how through the augmented reality they could see the whole biography of the toy, everything that is behind each of the characters of the Invizimals world. And then they could also combat among themselves. So you had the original product, which is just as any other toy, but apart from that you have the added value of providing a new function, which is the augmented reality. Later on we had the whole role play and play sets. And role play is just the product that enables the children be the main characters of this series. It tries to simulate the same actions that take place in the series, and then the play sets, which are the scenarios where they fight. The whole rent also had augmented reality, as you will see later, and children can enjoy the whole experience. Here you can see how it works. This was our first spot in our first campaign with the little pieces, and you will see how the augmented reality works. It's a pity we cannot hear the sound, but you can see all the figures, all the pieces, and how it all transforms. And in the series, as well as in the other collections, you give the option to the child to be part of the experience. You can see how your animal becomes alive, and you can bring him or her to the combat. Right, then moving on to the next one, we were talking about the role play. These are elements that were more associated with the series. We had this product focused on the Christmas time. I'm going to show you the video and then the spot. You can see here the child using the bracelet and having a display in augmented reality, and the researcher will be telling the child, please join us, join the hunt. So imagine the whole experience in the children. This is magic. Then the way we accompanied the whole thing with the campaign, with the spot, always giving providing the other functions. We're selling a product, a toy, but apart from the functions of a toy, it also has augmented reality. Finally, you can also see how the playsets work. The whole scenarios were the Invizimals play and combat. You select the world where you want them to combat. Here you have the Alliance base headquarters, and when you focus it, the iPad detects it and it becomes alive. And then these are the characters that the children have at home as toys, so they can see how these animals fight on their tables at home. So this is incredible for them. This is just our spot. We always think about playability, the several functions of the toy, and the augmented reality function. And talking about results, we Invizimals, we are having great results this year. We were in the first license in the market, and now we're fighting with licenses such as Transformers, Ninja Turtles, which have films behind, a whole production behind, and this is helping us with a line of toys which is almost there, fighting hand in hand with them. Thank you so much.
Viendo la presentación de Martí.
Okay, If we see this presentation, we would all like to be 10 years old back again. Now we're going to start with the Q&A session. You have microphones. If any of you would like to make any question, this is your time. If you have any observations to comment. Good morning. Thank you for all your presentations. I'm María José Pierto de Utah. Is there going to be a film? This is a question for all of you. Well, this is a very good question, because we would all like to do it, and we've been talking about this. We're now in the series because we're now producing it. Let's remember that the series will start soon, and the next step, we would all like it to be a long film. Any other question? You may use the microphone here.
Os habéis centrado un poco en el target infantil, pero...
You are now focusing on the children, but this was also for different audiences. Is it important to focus on the target, or does it matter because if the product is good, it will reach all the audience?
Each category has a different target. I can talk about the animation. We have a main target which is from 6 to 12 years of age. This is something that our colleague explained very well. But then there's the secondary target, which is larger. How you can follow the stories is something that can also go from 6 to 12 years of age. But the content is quite rich, so the target can be much broader. So we are going beyond that 6 to 12 range, but that's the secondary target, I would say, right? Does anybody want to make any further comments? I think the issue of the target is key. There is no determinate target in between 6 to 12 years of age. You actually have 4 sub-targets. But it's true that the whole universe does not have a specific target. You may add windows to this universe, and depending on the window that you use to look through the universe, the perspective might be different. But the game itself and the series, well, the game can go even up to 14 years of age. But for the series, you have to have a clear-cut target, because otherwise you may go overdrawing, and perhaps nobody would really like it. And this is quite key. The main idea is exactly what you just said. You create a universe, and then you place windows to that universe. They're targets to the windows, but not to the universe. Just to put it simply, in Star Wars, they've done animation series, and the target is, of course, younger. And for the movies, there are darker windows, more transparent windows. So the idea is to create a holistic universe that anyone can have access to, and through those windows you try to address specific people. A very clear-cut example is the trading cards. There's a very niche target for trading cards. This works really well, but the age range is really limited, and this doesn't imply that in other areas people from other age ranges won't be able to enjoy the universe. Very well explained. There's another question in the audience. Please, could we have a microphone so that everybody can hear the question? There's a microphone coming, I think. Well, I got the microphone first. I'm sorry. I will ask first then. No, but sorry, you will get the microphone second. Don't worry. I'm Julián de la Fuente from the Alcalá University. I would like to ask you up to what extent you consider, even though you already mentioned, but do you, to what extent do you consider the augmented reality to be a differential value for your product? Or do you actually think that this was just a mere coincidence, that all of a sudden this type of technology became handy and you have just harnessed the moment? Do you think that in the future there will be other technologies that you will be able to adapt to? How will you be able to adapt your transmedia approach to any type of new technology?
Obviously, there's a fundamental part in Invizimals, which is augmented reality. But you need to see that each transmedia is born from a concept. So Invizimals is very related to augmented reality. We were talking about memorability. I provided a different example, and Frozen uses a song. It's not better or worse. This is just their strategy. But what are we going to do in the future? Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna say. Joan, yes. Concerning augmented reality, this was not for us the most important part, but the concept of the whole Invisimal universe. And as a collection, it was perfect because it had several monsters. Tiger Shark is also as important as other monsters. And it's true that the augmented reality was spectacular because it was very well applied. And the fact that the trading cards become alive is more than half of the success of the whole collection. So for us, augmented reality in this case was very important. Augmented reality in Invizimals also influences in an indirect way. It makes it being simple. The simplicity is important. The whole song, you need to listen to the song for 3 minutes, but to experiment augmented reality, you only need 5 seconds. So it's so good. It's like an elevator speech without speaking, without needing so much time. The organization is telling me we should start finishing with the Q&A session, so let's try to be brief. Very briefly, I have a question for Dani and Juan. Did you hire external people for the video game, or was it the producer? Novara is a studio in Barcelona, and we only work for Sony. And normally we have confidentiality agreements which are quite strict, because they are highly innovative products. So we normally don't outsource. We are just more kind of an island. We don't have many social relations. We're like enclosed. We work together, and we're quite isolated in this sense. Sometimes we work with prototypes that may not become a reality. And we were working with PS Vita 1.5 years before it was launched. So you need to have a very strict number of people who will be aware of all this. So we normally don't outsource. They are very well related in the sense that they all work together very well. I would like to finish by thanking all the speakers and all the participants of this very clear vision of Invizimals and why we are here today, and thank all the participants in the audience as well.